That's part of the problem. The problem was is that I thought that if I changed my environment, that I would act different and be different. But that's not what happened. Okay, I went down south, but I still took me along for the ride. So, getting down in that type of environment, it was calm, it was collect, it was cool, but I still had the same habits, the same emotional issues, the same trauma, the same anger. So for me, it was like, all right, something has to give. You understand? And I went and messed up another situation, doing the same things I've been doing all the decades. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm not in Philly no more. So it can't be Philly. Philly can't be the problem. There has to be other issues. You understand what I'm saying? So after that situation was over, I started looking at myself like, wait a minute, it has to be me. You understand what I'm saying? So when I did that, questioning myself and saying, wait a minute, something's wrong here. You understand what I'm saying? I said, I've been making salat, alhamdulillah, since 96, and I'm still this same poisonous person. It can't be because the salat is not right. So what is it? It was me the whole time. And we look outside of ourselves and we blame others. So once I stopped pointing fingers and blaming, whether it was my mom, whether it was the hood, whether it was whatever, and I started looking at the situation like, okay, these things happened and they made me this way. Okay. So when I did that, I started to realize like, wait a minute, you know what? How do I fix it? That's what started happening. That's what clicked in. Okay, how do I fix it? So I started like looking at stuff like Ibn Qayyim, about the heart, about the brain, this, that, and the third, looking at some secular books. And I met a brother down south, his name Imam Nadim. Imam Nadim had did a study on PTSD, bipolarism, and he found that North Philly, Harlem, Newark, New Jersey, Chicago, South Central LA, I can't remember the other one. I think New Orleans or Houston, I can't remember, but that these had higher PTSD levels and trauma levels than Bosnia during the war in the 90s. Mm. That really was like a wake-up call because he started breaking down the symptoms to me. And his whole thing was breathing techniques, meditation through Tawheed. That was his whole thing. Yeah. So that's why I kind of got the meditation thing from him, like, starting off and things like that. So I'm like, man, meditate. Then I thought about, the prophet in the cave, used to go meditate and stuff like that. I thought he's talking about some Buddha. Like, I'm turning me into a Hindu. He's talking about meditating.
Nah, so let me cut you off. So that the people know, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to be focusing on a different perspective, a different direction. The night shift is going to focus on, inshallah ta'ala, trauma. So the key word is trauma. A lot of the things that we sweep under the rug, a lot of things that we don't talk about, a lot of things that we don't address as individuals growing up. And trauma, the most basic understanding of it. You don't have to be a psychologist. You don't have to be in the medical field to understand this. Your experience speaks volumes itself. Mm-hmm. So trauma is any distress that you have experienced, whether small or large, that have left an effect or impact on you, that weren't either properly addressed or properly looked at or taught to how to view it. So we're going to be dealing with trauma not from a point of view of medical experts, but a point of view from experience. Yeah. And we have a list of guests that we're going to be bringing to the night shift who's going to allow us a glimpse into their traumatic experience and how it still plays a role in regards to their being active, even calling, if they're in the field of calling to Allah, if they're in the field of calling or what they're doing, because trauma can impede your progress of your application to Islam.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it does, and I'm gonna show y'all how that
works.
How it
One of the
me.
questions, exactly, it can impede your progress or your application to Islam. So we want to definitely make sure that this is the new direction that we're going to be going. Inshallah. Exactly. Eesaa, I want to ask you a question here.
Yeah.
All right. So can you tell us? You mentioned about the Imam Nadim introduced you to a lot of different things you can do outside of Islam, like meditation.
Yeah.
How did you come across sun gazing?
Oh, well, how I came across sun gazing is that I was just flipping through YouTube, to be honest with you. And I was having conversations with people on YouTube and things like that. And, I was letting people know I got PTSD, from what happened in Egypt, and I had PTSD from growing up in the hood. I see my uncles, people get killed in front of me and stuff like that. So I had a lot of PTSD, a lot of anxious energy and stuff like that. So, and a lot of that stuff is brain. It's in your brain. A lot of that stuff is I call it emotional disease, but it has something to do with the brain. Right. So when I seen people sun gazing on YouTube, I'm like, what are they doing? You know what I'm saying? What's going on with this? And when I reached out to some of the people, and they were saying things like, the indigenous people of America used to do this, and they, the word America comes from the word Amaru Khan, which means people of sun, people of soul. So these people wasn't worshiping the sun. So I was apprehensive. I thought, people was worshiping the sun.
Yeah, right. Like, what are they doing?
What are they doing? But that's not what they were doing. It was medicinal uses. So what happened? I said, well, let me look up some of the medicinal uses for what are doctors saying about it, other people saying about it. And I learned that it deals with the serotonin and the melatonin levels in your brain. It deals with happiness and sadness. Okay. And it deals with the pineal gland that really regulates your weight. It regulates the temperature of your body. It regulates your emotions. It has a lot to do. And sunlight, gives it the ability to regulate those things.
Now, when you started to practice sun gazing,
yeah,
right, after finding out that it was okay and it didn't go against any of the tenets of Islam, did it do anything for you, being as though you're someone who has PTSD, someone who has bipolar? Did it help you? Did it do anything?
When I first did it, I felt like a happy feeling. It's the sun. You're out in the sun. You feel like a happy feeling come over you and stuff like that. But it takes time for it to build up. And all of a sudden, I didn't have the sinking feeling of depression anymore. You understand? And when the people that was down in Georgia who I was learning this from, they took shots of my the brain, how it looked with PTSD, how it looks with bipolarism, and actually there's these electric moves to your brain. That's how it sends signals. We know the heart is the intellect, and it sends message to the brain, then the brain sends the rest out to the rest of the body, right? So, but my brain though, the connect was dim, the lights were dim, it was these black spots and all this other stuff. So that means that what my brain supposed to have been doing, it wasn't doing because of trauma. Trauma has a physical effect on you. Okay. And if you don't think that, then you're going to keep on failing in your Islamic journey. You understand what I'm saying? Because you need to fix that. So when I started sun gazing, it repaired that. It started repairing that. It started the black spots dimmed out. The brain was functioning like it should from the sun. We know Allah created the sun, but I shouldn't have to explain that. But what I'm saying is that from the sun actually being a medicine for the brain through the eyes, because sun gazing, you look at the sun. Yeah. And a lot of times we say, well, we can't look at the sun. No, that's what you're taught. You can't look at the sun. But if you're carbonated, meaning a so-called Negro or whatever, dark skin or whatever, you actually have the ability to look at the sun. And you actually have the ability to take the sunlight in slow because of the carbon in your body, which that's why vitamin D, you absorb it very slowly. Other people, they can't absorb it like that.
Now, when you started practice, as you see, you was benefiting from it.
Right? Yeah.
Also,
help me lose weight too.
How was it in relation to your Islam? In relation to your Islam and you're learning these different methods, which are that the indigenous people, as you come to find out and discover, that these were methods that it was using for medicinal purpose in ancient times. Yeah. How did it, being as though you were already Muslim, and you've been diagnosed, you still was Muslim. Yeah. But that time, how did it help? How did it play a role with your Islam?
Well, I already understood that kula min at-tayyibat. So I already understood the principles of the fact that even if the deen didn't say it specifically, the fact that it's something from nature and it's khayr is permissible. Long as there's nothing in there that's going to say I'm worshiping the sun or you worshiping the moon or whatever the case may be. There was none of that. It wasn't about that. So I think that for me, it was kind of like the thing that I'm going to tell you, the thing that I got from Islam that was helped me on my journey, and I'm going to tell people this, the structure and the coverage that it gave me. Because, and some people say the salat, they'll say that, and obviously the salat is great. But I'm talking about for me personally, outside of the salat itself, the courage and structure that Islam gave me. Because if I didn't have the courage of it, I probably would have never stepped out of my comfort zone and got help. Because to me, it was like, all right, there's no way I keep failing as a Muslim. Why do I keep failing as a Muslim? You know what I'm saying? Why do I keep failing? Why is it that I'm praying 5 times a day, I'm reading Quran every day, I'm trying to, but I just can't get over the hump. What's wrong? And you'll find out when you really start taking a look at it, it's you.
Okay, so basically, would you think that honestly, when you say you can't get over the hump, do you think it has something to do with your understanding of Islam at that time? Do you think because where you were at was blocking your full vision of understanding? Because you have individuals out there who believe that Islam is the answer and that everything is Islam.
Yeah.
And it's either black or white. So if you're not speaking Islam, you speak in foreign, other from which would amount to be disbelief. So for me, I'm saying for you, do you think it was because of your understanding of Islam that once you discovered these medicinal points and these different ways and methods that can help you with your PTSD and stuff like that, which at that time, the prayer and everything, not saying that it weren't helping you, but you weren't becoming a better person or productive like you feeling now.
Yeah.
Do you think that has something to do with your understanding?
I think it has not. It's not. I don't think it had nothing to do with my understanding because I understood it well, but it blocked my application.
Okay.
It's a difference. Okay. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I had Sheikh Mahmoud, I had Sheikh Moksin, so I understood creed, but the reality of how the creed affected my life was being blocked by my emotional problems.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? It was being blocked by my depression. It was being blocked by these things because at the end of the day, I can be as Muslim as I want. If I can't control your desires, you can't control your emotions, and you can't control your anger, and you can't control your depression, you're always going to fail at what you're trying to do.
And this is an important point here before you continue. So it's important that we really do some, looking within ourselves, because it's okay to dress up one way. We put on our thobes, we put on our kufis, we put on our jilbabs, and we go to the masjid, we have class, and we get into this routine and this cycle. And the problems that we have that are real, a lot of time, we either keep them away from people, we either try to not disclose it, but it's there. And we block it by saying, you know what, I'm a Muslim, I'm upon Tawheed, I'm upon this, but you never really addressing the real core issue. And you're never really developing in your Islam like you're supposed to, because you don't want to mention those problems. You don't want to mention them. Plus, you don't want to go to no. You don't want to mention those problems. I don't. The sound is on.
No, they hear me.
Yeah, they hear
me. People hear me.
Yeah, people hear you. Yeah. But you don't want to mention those problems by the permission of Allah.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah. Well,
and you feel shy. So how do you? What would be your advice to people who are facing those traumatic experiences like you?
Yeah.
Right. And they are Muslim or they are in any faith, but they don't feel as like they want to come out. What would be the thing that would encourage them?
Well, firstly, what you got to do, you have to admit that you got a problem. That's the first step. You don't have to admit it to others. You don't have to come out right out in the open. But the first thing you have to do is look at yourself in the mirror and say, do you like what you see? Okay, so, and I'm not talking about physically. Okay, I'm talking about inside.
How you feel.
Yeah, how you feel. So when I did that, I didn't like what I saw. I was horrified by what I saw. It literally horrified me about what I saw. But nobody knew I was going through that. And what you do is that if you don't do that and you don't get help, you're going to oppress people. Okay, you're going to destroy hearts.
Not to mention oppressing yourself.
Oppressing yourself. You're going to be like a Tasmanian devil throughout your life.
And not to mention that you, at the same time, you're not really going to be able to apply the deen that you want to.
Yeah, well, that's why you're a Tasmanian devil, because you're not applying it. So you like Taz in the China shop, with the tongue hanging out, he's spinning around like that.
Yeah.
But because your life is spinning out of control. Literally, I was spinning out of control, to be honest with you. So, and for me, you there's things that happen to you. Like I was molested, you know what I'm saying?
No.
So that I was over sexualized. You imagine you 8, 9 years old, you get molested, right, by a family member or something like that, by a woman. So you don't know that affects how you view women the rest of your life. You don't understand how that whole process makes you sexualized. And you don't know how to process sex at 8 years old. No. So all you do is as you get older, you try to keep chasing that same feeling. And even if it's not right, even if that's what I call it, it's like chasing the dragon for a dope addict. You're still trying to chase that same emotion all the time. No. Right? And so it's not like you may want sex, right? Sometimes you just may want attention. Sometimes you may want, and then you throw people away because you was thrown away. See, this stuff is just subconscious. This is what happens to you. And you can't pray that away. Wallahi, you can't. You have to literally go inside. You have to be brave enough to say, okay, I had enough of. When I look back, I look behind me, and I saw all the tears and the broken people and the houses I messed up and the women I hurt. I said, wow, you know, I'm. And it wasn't that I said to myself, you gotta be careful saying, oh, I'm a bad person. No, you just hurt, and you hurt other people.
Hurt people. Yeah,
That's what you do. It's not that you're a bad person. It's just that a person that you are right at that moment got created by trauma. And you don't know that. So you just go around and you think that, you know, because your pants is high, your beard is big, and you know, you got the miswhack and all that, you still sick. And what happens is that when you get,
you realize that you're really never treating the sickness.
You're not treating the sickness.
You think you are because you have took the shahada.
Yeah.
But, and if you fully don't understand it, you're not able to really, like you said Islam gave you the bravery and the courage you need to be able to even go to this journey.
Yeah, exactly. But you need certain experiences.
Okay.
And I think my experience in the South, in Atlanta, you know, with my ex-wife down there, I think that was the experience I needed. It didn't work out. And, you know, I wasn't where I am today. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, may Allah make it easy, man, and nothing more. So apologies to that sister, because that sister really, I put it like this. She gave me a lot of tools to wake up. Now, it took me time to snap out of my dysfunction. And I didn't snap out of my dysfunction until afterwards. But
go ahead. They can hear us.
Oh,
no,
I know they were saying they can't hear us. So at the end of the day, I needed that process. And sometimes you need a process. You might not get it in Philly. You may not get it where you're from. You may have to go out and you may have to take another whipping to make you say, you know what? Why do I? And you have to ask yourself that. Look at your life. I started taking journals. I said, day 1, day 2, I feel this way, I feel that way. Okay, this happened in my life. And I saw the same routine happening. Only married for 2 years. The same way I was getting divorced, but the same way I kept getting divorces. The same thing, the same actions.
So that cycle was being repetitive.
And I got it from my mom, and I got it from her, and she got it from. You understand what I'm saying? So I started realizing, and I started putting my actions and how I was behaving to traumas that happened to me, and it was connected. Oh, I act like that because of this. I act like that because of this. And once you get that down pat, now you can get the medicine and start applying it.
And applying it right. Because what you did is you went to the core.
Yeah.
And you always got to go to the core. Even Islam teaches that to get to the nitty gritty. I know Salat is coming in. You go pretty much to the core of the situation.
Yeah.
I want to make this as a note. As y'all brothers hearing our brother give us a glimpse of his life, and this is something personal. So this is not something that you play around with. Somebody being diagnosed with bipolar or somebody being diagnosed with any of these problems. Many of the Muslims in the community and Muslims community alone, even though there's other people outside of the Muslim communities, are faced with this stuff daily. And sometimes they don't want to admit that this is the problem that they have. And they don't want to sound as if Islam is not helping them. And sometimes people think that Islam isn't helping when you hear someone who have these problems or have experiences. I don't even want to call them problems, but have experiences. You don't understand them. So you think that what they're saying is like, oh, Tawheed to fix it. And you so offhand and backhanded with it.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, Tawheed does work and it will fix, but it's a whole method.
It's a holistic approach. It's a holistic approach
that must be applied. So you can't offhandedly just disregard someone's mental state, emotional state, trauma, the impact that it placed on that person.
Mm-hmm.
You can't disregard that. This is why Allah Jalla wa Ala, he mentions over and over in the Quran the importance of having rahmah, having mercy, and that mercy must be that compassion you must show to one another.
Yeah.
An individual is going through this, a person is going through that. You might think that this person is here, this person. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you were able to allow us to do this interview and at least give us an insight into some personal information, because this is personal. And you recently just experienced another trial that I was with you when you came up and buried your son.
Yeah.
And that incident taking place even at the hands of another Muslim, with that whole incident taking place. And that was another
I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, my nephew also was killed by Muslims that prayed with him. They set him up, ambushed him. He felt they shot him in the face and everything. My son was killed by a Muslim as well. And then the new thing, I'm dealing with the son being adopted. I was told he was stillborn, he was dead. Come to find out, the boy's not dead, and he was given away for adoption without my knowledge. So I'm dealing with that issue as well. I'm gonna tell you this about trauma. It's not that it goes away. You just have to be a better manager of it and how you react to it. Because what happens is the trauma starts driving your car for you. So what it was doing for me was it was driving my car.
You become reactionary.
Yeah. So you become reactionary, and every decision you make is from that trauma.
Okay.
Every time you react to a situation from that trauma. When you get traumatized as a kid, you kind of stay one. Even though you get bigger, but your body grew, but your mind didn't.
Now, I heard a doctor explain that the way that it grows when you're younger and you get that first experience with trauma, normally what happens if you don't address it at an early age, he was explaining that what happens is you begin to grow a monster.
Yeah.
If you sweep everything under the rug,
and
you really don't deal with it, it's going to grow. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't go nowhere.
Yeah.
But it's growing. It becomes too big for you to even deal with. I think that, mashallah, that's what you're saying is pretty much great.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. Like, I always try to get real live examples. But I couldn't imagine the old me responding to this woman who put my child for adoption.
No.
The old me would have put her in the trunk. We just being raw. The old me would have trunked her, grabbed her by her hair. Me and her family would have went through it. My family would have came into it. It'd have been a whole process of just straight up, let's go to war, right? But the me now, my response was empathy. Okay, because I had to realize, and you don't blame yourself for nobody's actions, but I looked at it like this. Okay, what did I put her through? Okay, so I took responsibility for my own actions in it. So I gave her empathy.
Now,
you know what I'm saying? I didn't attack her. I didn't try to beat her down.
Do you believe that Islam, and I know you believe this, but I'm asking you a question.
Yeah.
Do you believe that Islam have the coping mechanisms that can help with people trauma, the different experiences that they went through?
Yeah, if you know how to apply it.
If you know how.
I mean, if you don't know how to apply it, and that's why you see a lot of my lives is basically about, hey, you guys are not practicing what you preach. This is why it's not working for you. This is why you find yourself in chaos. Because you're not going to tell me that if you truly believe that this is revealed from above and this is the truth, then why are you chaotic? Why is your life chaotic? Why is your communities chaotic? There has to be a disconnect somewhere. That's because you are chaotic and you're not fixing the chaos in yourself. And you find conflict in yourself because, an example, I remember for me, and I always go back to me. This is, I'm just sharing my journey. I used to have conflict in myself about who I was and what I was. So it was like, okay, I'm one way at the masjid, but when I'm home, I'm mean. You understand? So, and then I'm over here, I'm like this. So it was all this conflict about my personality. I had these personality disorders and I was this way, and it caused so much conflict, caused anger, frustration, outbursts, literally drove me insane, almost drove me crazy.
So at this point, would you say that you're going to the masjid, you're coming home being a totally different person, you're reading the Quran, you're sitting with the scholars, you're doing that? Would you say at that time that was routine and that really you weren't so connected to that at that time? Or I'm
gonna tell you this. My opinion about that was, you talking about when I was overseas, Mahmoud and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that was the medicine that I needed for what I needed to leave off and not be at the moment.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So meaning that I got the skills that I needed, but it wasn't, I don't think at the time it was meant for me at the time to my emotions and my psychology to get better. Okay. So, but I got what I needed, and it kept me. I'll give you an example. I couldn't imagine not having what I got from Sheikh Muksa and Sheikh Mahmoud when my wife died, or when the wars happened in Egypt, and the things I had to do to survive. I couldn't imagine how to navigate that psychologically if I didn't have their information that I got from them. There's no way I would have navigated. I would have lost my mind, which I almost did. Right? Going to prison over there, rats crawling on you, you know what I'm saying? Urine and feces on you, getting sick, you know what I'm saying? A person who didn't have what they gave me, I would have been getting up sick with rashes on me, praying in the middle of the night still. You understand what I'm saying? With feces and urine, fighting Egyptians, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that in the prison because they, you know how they are, right? And I wouldn't have survived. I wouldn't have psychologically came out of that. But at the same time, there was new trauma added. You understand? So, and then coming back to America, that was a whole nother trauma. You understand what I'm saying? So you go through phases in life, and Allah is going to make sure that you get the things you need during each phase. You just got to have the open eyes to see. But if you're seeing through trauma and anger and sadness, you might not see it.
No. And it's amazing, right? Because, you know, as myself, you know, like me and you always have long debates.
Oh man, we go in. Me make my hat tip a little bit sometimes too, man.
But as myself, I see that Islam is like a go-to for me. It's like one of those things, like my safe haven.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when I go through different things, like, you know, it's either going to be the Quran, it's going to be the Prophet's life, it's going to be, you know, things like that are part of what I'm going through that I use as a trigger for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like you was mentioning, those different phases we go through. I just want to get advice to the listeners that with Brother Eesaa stressing that importance about making the tatbiq or the application be true, but also realizing what your problem is, because the salat, as Allah says in the Quran, in a salat that indeed the salat prevents you from, you know, all types of evil, behaving this way and acting this way.
It's something inside not right.
There's multiple reasons why that verse wouldn't apply. We still see an individual acting and behaving a way. Eesaa is giving us a little bit of insight to that. You know what I mean? I was like, you know, Sheikh Muhammad Imam explained that, you know, you're not praying correctly, but he's giving us that backdrop of that inward thing.
Yeah.
Because a person inwardly cannot be right. And that's the part that you really have to realize. Yeah, Islam can reach you there, but how are you going to allow it to reach you there and you still not being honest with what is actually there? You understand? An individual have these problems, going through these problems, and the first thing you do is, I can go to the masjid.
Yeah.
Show the Quran in their face. Do this, do that. And you're not addressing their issues. The problem is not even being addressed. So
a sister came to one of the masjids before, and I this girl was told me personally about her sister, right? And she was having some real bad depression. She had just had a baby. She wasn't married anymore. The brother was just out of line. You know what I mean?
No.
So she went to the masjid. I mean, she was in a bad state.
No.
And all they said was, read the Quran. She just didn't know what to do. She was like, well, I only can read it in English. Like, I don't know what it. And, you know, this sister eventually just stopped practicing, I guess, because that's the answer she got. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, and not to say she's not Muslim anymore. I'm just saying that, look at that. They didn't know what to do for her.
They didn't know how to help her.
They didn't.
Or they didn't know how to allow the Quran to help her. Now, honestly, to tell you the truth, if you read the Quran with certain proper fahm, that need to be added to. Yeah. If you know how to read the Quran and understand what Allah is actually saying with the proper fahm, the proper comprehension, it could help.
Yeah, it could.
But if you're just a person who, I really don't understand Arabic, I really don't understand this from that, I'm opening this up and I'm dealing with this problem right now, you're not really going to make that connection. So I get that point you're making.
Yeah, and that's the point I'm making. The point I'm saying is we gotta have psychiatrists in these communities, man. We just gotta have them in here because.
Well, the problem is what you just helped me discover earlier is that a lot of people don't feel brave enough to even go. We do have Muslim psychiatrists, and we do have psychiatrists, but a lot of people don't feel brave enough to even step in that.
Well, you know what that comes from? I'm gonna tell you what that comes from. From my own personal journey. I'm not gonna put this on everybody, but from my journey and from my talking, because I'm around people that was on the same journey with me, who had to go through the same stuff, and they're giving me some of the same answers. A lot of us, if you've been molested, abused, psychologically, emotionally, and things like that, you develop shame and regret. So that shame and regret keeps you from asking questions. It keeps you from seeking help because you're like, man, I can't let nobody know this is my problem. Because somebody been shaming you your whole life. We grew up in a place in the indigenous community where it's taboo to have a mental problem. You try to tell your uncles how you feel, like punch you in the chest. You understand? When I grew up, it wasn't no, what you crying for? You understand? So you ain't never get no help. You try to reach out, your family beat you down. So you went into regret mode and shame mode. So now every time you wanted to get help, automatically click in your head, shame, regret, pity. and you back right back up. You go into a hole because you expect somebody to laugh at you. You expect them to dish you. You expect them to attack you. So you go into, so your whole life is basically defense mode. You are shield and sword your whole life. And you're protecting whatever emotions you think you have, which aren't really your own real emotions. They just a bunch of trauma.
Because of the concept that you're weak if you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
Or the concept if you expose yourself, you open yourself up to being that. And I'm a lot of the youth, and even a lot of us, we know that what we dealt with when we came up.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can't reach our children because we do the same thing that our parents did to us, and we pretty much do it to our children. So we say the same thing they said to us. Mm-hmm. But we really know mm-hmm. how we feel. We know that didn't work for us, so it shouldn't work for our children at the same time. Because you have to think, when they grow with that, it's going to be hard for them to confront what is the real issue. And they're not going to see a lot of the beauty of whatever they profess to be following or adhering to, because they're not going to connect it, helping them.
No, you don't see the beauty in yourself.
There you go.
So if you don't see beauty in yourself, you don't see beauty anywhere. And I didn't see beauty anywhere. It was just like, all right, I need to make it through the day. And when you just basically on survival mode, I just need to make it through the day, that's a problem. You understand? You got to be thinking, I need to make it to the future. I need to not just make it through the day. We have children that we have to be the best version. And that's one of the things that helped me. I realized I got to be the best version for my children. You understand what I'm saying? So that was part of my bravery. Like, hold up. If I don't stop this now, I'm going to give it to them. And they're going to give it to my grandchildren. So at what point do you break the cycle?
Right.
You understand what I mean? So, and when people try to help you, you defend yourself because you're so used to people hurting you that I don't care how nice they are and how cute they are or how much they show love to you. You're going to fight back because you're so used to the way you are. You're not ready to give it up just yet.
Right.
Okay. You're not ready to give it up just yet. So, that's what you have to do. You have to start working on yourself, and you have to be honest with yourself. You understand? You know, and that's what it is. It's you self-sabotage because you've been sabotaged your whole life. You're so used to being sabotaged, you'll sabotage yourself.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And so one of the things that helps me is grounding. You can find this with the Sahaba. They used to walk barefooted in nature and stuff like that. You can find it in those types of books. Go research, you will find it. But things like grounding, because the earth actually has it's reasons why people do stuff. It's magnetic forces, and the magnetic forces go up through your spine to your brain. That helps you feel relaxed and calm. Sun gazing, sunbathing, all those things that I do and meditate, you know what I'm saying, make dhikr and those types of things, they bring me peace. And I'll give you an example of how it helped me today. I think I told you about it. So the woman who put my son up for adoption, right? And when I found this out, that joint nearly, you talking about heart crushing, because I just buried a son. Now I found out that one was taken from, I didn't even know I told he was dead.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Right? So I had to deal with that whole thing. So today, I got an email from the sister. She said, well, you're not allowed in my house, because people, when they're traumatized and they're broken, they have to find something to control. And that's how we are. So the only control that
give you a sense of power.
Like, you can't come in my house. So instead of reacting like I would have reacted in the past, what do you mean? My children live in there. You're talking about me, you about to go through something. I just said, she said, well, you're not allowed in my house. And she said, may you, and thank you for your understanding. So my response was, I went, took off my shoes, made my dhikr, meditated for a second, let my feet touch the grass. I calmed down, did my breathing exercising. I put a smile on my face, and I texted her back and said, may my understanding bring you joy and enlightenment. And I left it. See, because it's not about not feeling it.
It's how you respond.
It's how you respond. Because see, I tell people all the time, this is one of the things that I live by. Trauma or something painful may not be your choice. It's maybe outside of your control. That's what maybe decreed for you, right? But suffering through it is a choice. I don't have to suffer. I don't have to allow what you did to make me suffer. That's a choice that I made.
It's perspective. And perspective plays a major role. This is why Allah Jalla wa Ala, he mentioned when he talks about the different things that brings those traumatic impacts on you. He mentioned at the end, he says, وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. And it's important that you understand when Allah says, give glad tidings to the sabirin, The word sabr in and of itself is more deeper than what we just saying patient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
trying to be patient.
Yeah.
It's a whole method or process that must be understood.
It's an emotional issue.
Realizing that one, like you just said, certain things may not be in your control, right? So if it's not in your control, to force it is going to cause you to do what? It's going to harm you more or harm others when you try to force something that isn't in your control. You don't have no control over the situation. So you can do what our brother just done, calmed himself down, thicker. Okay, meditation. He learned some different means that'll help him out. Grounding, taking your shoes off. Yeah, there are hadiths that the Prophet ﷺ will walk bare feet. Sometimes Sheikh Uthaymeen also mentioned this. You can find this also in the books of fiqh. They deal with walking across. Sometimes you should walk out with your feet on the ground. I mean, a lot of the Muslims might not be exposed to this, but there are other Muslims that are exposed to this type of information, and they have certain effects that they help you out. But my point I'm trying to bring is that when Allah says glad tidings to the Sabirin, He says Alladina, okay, those who وَإِذَا أَصَابُوا مُصِيبَةً, when they are afflicted with any type of calamity. And when I have lost my children's mother, this is one of the verses that comfort me, because Allah says وَإِذَا أَصَابُوا مُصِيبَةً. And it wasn't, you understand what I'm saying? That type of understanding of when a calamity befalls you, you have to realize who's in control of that situation. How you view it, how you understand it's going to play a major role. If you think you have some control or some aspects of the situation, then you're going to take all that weight on yourself and you're going to be fighting yourself. But if
internal conflict going to come from it. You're going to lose your mind. You're going to lose your mind.
But if you let it go, you're going to say, okay, you know what? You can breathe.
You got to let it go, man. You gotta literally let it go. And I'm saying that, at the end of the day, there are things that happen that was just some serious issues. Like, for example, like if you let things destroy you, like my personal life, who my father is, the story is my mother, some guy raped my mother and got pregnant with me, and here I am. But if I just look at it as I'm from a rape, or did I look at it as, well, you know what? I came from a rape. All my children are from a marriage. Okay. I'm able to raise and be around my children. You know what I'm saying? And I'm alive, I'm breathing, I'm doing positive things. If I look at it like that, then it's easier. If I look at it like, damn, I came from a rape, my head is down. It's all perspective. It's all perspective. It was like I was meant to be here. That's how I came in. That's okay though. That's not my fault. And one of the things that you got to stop doing, I tell you about through your trauma, stop blaming yourself. Stop guilting yourself to death. You didn't do that. You didn't molest yourself. You didn't abuse yourself. You didn't most of the stuff that happened to you in life, somebody else did to you.
If people can really get a real handle on perspective, I think it will help out tremendously with them coping with depression and dealing with these issues, because it will allow you to see something a certain way. It reminds me of a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he says, the believer should be optimistic and not a pessimist. You understand? He should always see the good in a situation as opposed to seeing the bad in the situation.
Have the cup half full.
Exactly. An individual is looking like this. Why this happened to me? I'm the worst. This is the worst thing that ever happened. Nobody go through the worst problems I go through. Nobody, suffer the way that I suffer. And he's holding himself down. He can't even get past it because he's not seeing, okay, maybe let me look at it like this. It was different. Let me look at it from this angle. And then I might can see some beauty of it. Okay, I didn't have control of that situation. That lifts a lot of burden. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, and another thing we got to do, let yourself feel. Like, I don't stop myself from crying about stuff.
Okay.
Because tears literally are for that. Tears literally help. It's medically proven that tears help you feel better. So, but a lot of us is taught this bravado. Will be hold in tears. I don't hold in tears. Literally, I will go out to the park in the middle of nowhere like I did. Take off my shirt, let the sun hit me, take my shoes off, make my nigga go into my meditation and cry about things that I've been through. Not because I'm still suffering through it, because, hey, I might want to cry about it today. And I do.
But see, the youth nowadays, their mindset is that's weakness.
Yeah, and it's not.
And also, they bottle it in because they don't want someone to see that they're being, true to form of being weak. I can't be looked like as a sucker out here.
Yeah.
But it's really more manly, because
Yep.
manly is about responsibility and accountability. But it's more manly to a person to actually to be able to shed those tears, because it ain't supposed to be held in.
Nah,
It's
it kills
supposed to
you.
come out. Yeah, it kills you.
It kills
If you
you.
leave it in there, it bothers you
Yeah,
up.
it kills you.
So your new personal development, your journey, right?
Mhm.
Would you say that did it bring you away from Islam?
No, I mean, not at all. I mean, it got me away from sectarian nonsense.
Okay, so can you explain to us what you mean by that? I understand what you mean.
My
What do you
whole
mean
thing
by
is that you have faith and you got organized religion. That's not how I look at it. And when I think about organized religion, I know people say, "What do you mean organized?" Organized can mean because there's a system in play, but to me, organized religion means just a bunch of dogma and no real action is in it. So for me, the more I got better as a person inside, I got less reliant on all these different sects. And I said, "Oh, wait a minute. When it came out of the heavens, it wasn't all these sects. So all these sects that people following and running around trying to be a part of, they're keeping you away from your real connection. And you're busying yourself with following this one and that one. But when it came down out of the heavens, right, it came down to one person. It came down from Allah gave it to Jibril, and Jibril came to the prophet, and then the prophet. So it's always one. It wasn't a bunch. So it kind of got me out of that whole mindset of this one is Salafi, that one isn't, this one. I kind of always been out of that, but it helped me to see it in a perspective, like in how it didn't really help me. It kept me combative. It kept me angry. It basically was feeding my emotional problems. And that's not good for nobody. You need to get in a place where the deen is literally your companion and your friend and your emotions, not that it's feeding your negativity. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what that is for me. And also diet. Okay, I was 282 pounds just 7 months ago. Okay, stomach out here, knees hurting, back hurting. I'm 195 now. And how I did that was, as I was growing psychologically and emotionally as a person, I realized, well, wait a minute, my health has to go along with what I am inside. So through sun gazing, it regulates your weight. So I did a cleanse. I cleansed my stomach out. Stop eating meat. Stop eating sugar. I don't eat sweets. All I drink is water. I don't drink soda. So and as I was getting sun, as you can see, I'm more of a copper, red, brown tone now. That's how my skin looks. I don't have all these marks all over my face anymore. All that poison, because the poison from food also poisons your mind. You are what you eat. That's a true statement. You are what you eat.
No.
You are what you eat.
Just to add on to that real quick, we got to get ready to wrap it up, y'all. But just to add on to that, I just want to add lip on two things that you mentioned.
Yeah, go ahead.
The one thing about the organized religion and how you explained it and what it meant to you. Is it safe to say that those individuals, as I see it, people get into a routine? And when they become into a routine, say, for example, the first generation practiced it and they understood it.
Yeah.
And it did something for them.
Yeah.
The second generation, the third generation.
Yeah.
By the time it reached them, it became a routine. Or say, alhamdulillah, when you sneeze. Do that when you do this.
Yeah.
Do that when
Same
you do
thing
this.
we saw in this country.
But the actual soulful aspect of it or the spiritual aspect of it didn't make a connection to them.
No.
It wasn't changing. So they was pretty much just stuck in and that which will become that dogma that you're talking about.
It become an organization at that point.
You don't know why you're doing it. You don't understand why you're doing it.
No.
But you know this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, what happens is when that happens, you don't know how to direct the energy to the problem.
Okay.
You feel me? So say if you're just doing rituals all day, you never slow down and say, "Oh, I'm gonna direct this to that. This is for that. This is for that. I got this problem. I got this issue. So I'm gonna take this and put it here. I'm gonna take that." And then not necessarily might not be directly from Dean. You might learn from a secular book. You might learn from your history and stuff like that. I learned a lot like copper, like colloidal copper that I drink. I make it with the electrodes and the copper wires, the water, and I sip on it. I use it on my skin, my hair. I learned that from our indigenous people here. Used to put the copper in water to clean it.
No.
But the people turned it into wishing wells. That wasn't what we was doing.
Well, so as far as the eating healthy, that was the second thing I was going to address. Eating healthy, Ibn al-Qayyim in the tip, dealing with the Prophet's medicine.
Yeah.
He didn't name his book that anyway, but
dealing with
writing down the Prophet Seerah. He covered that the Prophet talked about the eating healthy. And the connection that it has with a person, how it's
not eating a lot of red meat and those types of things like that.
Not only that, he went so far as talking about water. What type of temperature of water you should not drink when you wake up in the morning. You shouldn't drink fresh, cold water. He went in detail, in depth, right? So a lot of these things, as far as your diet, as far as what you eat, plays a role on how you think, how you view the world,
what you eat,
which makes you better, right? Yeah. So my whole thing is, what I'm trying to say is this: Islam, right? Yeah. Covers a lot of these grounds. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Extensively. Yeah. But with the way that certain things have been coming across us, and the way it had been coming across us, that the focus point had to been make sure your pants are above your ankles, which is important. Yeah. Make sure so and so is not a deviant. Yeah. Okay. Which has its place. Yeah, it has its place. Don't go to that masjid there. But at the same time, the individual is not worrying about the alcoholism that's in the family. They're not worrying about the molestation or the molester that's in the family, or if you've been molested. Yeah. The individual's not worrying about the psychological state of that person. Yeah. All I got to do is quote a couple of scholars' names. Yeah. And quote, go to a certain masjid or certain masajids, and this is my focus. Yeah. And then I don't go down that journey that you just went down. I don't deal with the trauma. I don't deal with the psychological stuff. No, you don't. So look. Go ahead. When you come to a people, right? Like when I deal with people talking about their mental health. Like I've given people my regimen, a lot of people. I do this a lot. This is what I do. And one of the things that doesn't happen is that when you approach a person, you have to understand exactly where they are at the moment. And we're not saying, like you said, you're not saying that the pants being raised not important, the bear is not important, all these things aren't important. But when you came to the inner city, to the indigenous people of America, you came to them. You're not telling me that the first thing you thought was a problem was their pants was too long, or they didn't have hair on their face. You had to clearly see the neighborhood. You had to clearly see the family issues. You had to because it goes on in the masjid. People are married, divorced. How many times they fighting in front of the masjid? They selling drugs and shooting each other. People have been shot in the masjid. So you see this happen. There has to be an origin story to these problems. Okay. So if you don't know the origin story to the problem, you're going to tell me, all right, well, here, man, just raise your pants above your ankle. But when I leave you, I'm going to smoke a blunt. My pants up. Because it becomes fashion now in Philly. When I went to Atlanta, I had a beard and short pants. Oh, you from Philly? It wasn't, and that was it. Even in Philly right now, you walk around with your pants up and beard and stuff like that. People don't care about that anymore. It's just that, you're a Muslim boy. No. Or not. It's just style at this point, right? So what I'm saying is that you have to know what needs to be talked about first. Okay. And we're not, and meaning that outside of Tawheed, right, which all of this stuff is connected to that, right? But outside of the I don't want to use the word abstract, but the Tawheed that you can't see, right? The Iman part. There's physical things that come along with that has to be applied. And every application doesn't have to apply to everybody. No. That's our problem. Your problem is you're trying to apply what's going on overseas to Lord Leroy and them. Lord Leroy and them have a whole set of issues. Okay? I'm out here. I'm talking to people. People are broken. I mean, literally, I'm talking to people, young boys, man, they break down in tears. I'm giving them hugs and everything. They devastated. But they put on the front, they drink, they smoke to hide all the pain. But when you talk to them, man, they sound like a tea kettle, because they hurt. So they angry. So they pull out guns to show all this bravado. But you get them by themselves and talk to them, man, they can't talk to you 10 minutes without crying. Okay? And that's what I'm saying. These people will take shahada, come in the masjid, and then you won't find out what's wrong with them. And they're too scared because you want to judge them anyway. You understand what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, if I can't go to my brother and say, hey man, look, man, this is what happened to me in my life, and this is what I'm doing right now. I know it's not right, but I need somebody to talk to. If you're going to judge me and call me a sinner, and man, you need to get on your deen, not kid. If you want to judge me, I'm never going to come for help, because I'm already judging myself. I've already been judged my whole life. I'm not coming to you to be judged. I'm coming for help.
And that's the problem, man.
Barakallahu feek. We reached our time, which is 7 o'clock, inshallah ta'ala. We thank our host, Eesaa Abu Eesaa, inshallah ta'ala, dropping and enlightening us on his personal development, something that was very personal about him, that was brave. And I hope that it inspired you guys. And for those naysayers out there, man, this is our brother in Islam. All right, he's still Muslim. He still believes in Allah Azza wa Jal. And don't assume anything. If you want to know about this man, all you got to do is ask the one that he knows. Don't assume about what he's saying or what things are being said. All right. Hopefully, like we said, there are different methods and people are dealing with stuff. To the people that's in the arena of any dawah, whether that you're calling to, I want to just advise you, if you listen to what the brother is saying, to reach the youth and to reach these people out here, we really got to start going to the core problems. We can't keep just dressing everything up with this is bid'ah, this is rape, this is that, and stay away from that. We really got to start addressing these issues, man. They're real deep. Like the brother just saying, you see, it's real deep. Going through these experiences, and they need to know that Islam is beautiful. But if you're not a person who don't know how to really apply the medicine of Islam to people's problems, you don't know how to do it, and you make that their version of Islam is what you presented to them, you can chase them away. And they don't think that Islam is a beautiful deen because you don't know how to pour and extract what you need to pour and extract, and they looking at it like, yo, that can't be Islam. That's how I was introduced to it.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And you can push them away. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be, strong and sincere. And inshallah, just stay tuned. We're going to have some more people, more guests coming on talking about their trauma. We're going to be tying them with Islam. Inshallah, thank you all for tuning in. Make dua for all of us, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair.